was listening to some training video or training audio yesterday while I was driving, and I heard a quote from somebody, and I honestly I can't remember who it was who said it, but it's really had my mind thinking. His quote was this. He said, when asked, why do you work 12 to 15 hours every day? He said, well, the average person works 8 hours a day. And the average person is just barely surviving. I don't think you can thrive on 8 hours a day. I think 8 hours a day is survival. If you want to survive, work 8 hours every day. But if you want to thrive, you're going to have to work more than 8 hours a day. And I've really been thinking hard about that. Is he just talking about monetarily from the amount of money that you can earn in an 8-hour workday, or is he talking more about the discipline necessary to be better than average? I mean, think about some of the guys like Michael Jordan, or even the young Jordan Spieth, or Jerry Rice. All of these guys are known for work ethic that is off the charts good. And I don't just mean that they show up and do what they're supposed to do in the time that they're there. They show up, they do what they're supposed to do in the time that they're there. They go above and beyond what they're supposed to do during the time that they're there. But I mean, we've seen videos, and they're commercials, but they could be probably filmed as real time as well. Look at somebody like Jason Witten, 15 seasons. I think he's only missed one game in 15 seasons due to injury. He's broken all sorts of records. Number of catches against a particular team, number of yards earned against a particular team. I mean, it's pretty impressive stuff, but his work ethic isn't show up at spring training and then go home. His work ethic is in the gym on a regular basis. It's working out on a regular basis. It's catching balls and running routes, even when nobody else is around, even when nobody's looking. He's pushing himself. He's testing himself. He's improving himself. And I think when we think about the idea of working an 8-hour week, we think about the uniformity of the banker's hours, if you will, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Everybody wants to work that kind of shift, right? Everybody wants to have the 1 hour lunch hour and the 2 15-minute breaks during the course of the day. And the truth is, the average person does. And the below average person, maybe they have a part-time, or they have the 8-hour shift, but they really only give it 50% most of the shift. And, you know, when it's time to go home, then they give it 100% for the last 20 or 30 minutes because, well, they want to get out of here. I've mentioned on this program before, there's a fast food restaurant, I won't name it, but a fast food restaurant in this little town that we live in. And we pulled up there one night at, I don't know, 7:45, 8 o'clock. And all of the outside lights around the patio were turned off. The big sign with their name on it was turned off. And from the parking lot, the outer row of lights around the inside of the building were turned off. So against the glass, it was dark. But you could see that there was still activity inside, and the chairs were on top of the tables on one side of the building, the side that faced the parking lot. So as you pulled up, the impression that it gave you, the outside lights are off, the sign is off, the chairs are on the table, it's dark against the glass. Yeah, they must be closed. But I was determined because I was hungry for that particular food that night. And as I walked up to the door, I noticed the sign said, we close at 10. And I'm thinking, it's barely 8. And so I asked the manager, or the person at the counter, I said, does your store close early tonight or something? And they're like, no. I said, well, I just noticed all the lights were off and the chairs were up. And they're like, well, we're getting ready to close. I said, how long does it take you to close? They said, they didn't really have an answer for that. They had no idea how long it, quote, took to close. What does the closing process look like? How soon from when we start to close until we can actually leave the building is closed? How long is that? Is that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour? Because they've been prepping for 2 hours to close. And as such, gave the impression they were already closed. Not just to guess, average ticket times number of tickets they could possibly manage in an hour, that was probably costing the franchise owner of that fast food joint somewhere around $2,000 a day. If I were guessing, there's probably not anyone working there that makes $2,000 a day. What that tells me is that they're not working their full 8 hours, much less working beyond that to achieve. The young men and women who come out of high school sports and into college sports and move on into professional sports are not just people who have been given talent, because a lot of people have talent. They're the people who've taken that talent and added to it the discipline to show up and do it every day until they can't do it anymore. Not until they feel like quitting. Not until everybody else has checked out and gone home. Not until it's 2 hours before quitting time or closing time, but until they just can't go another step. They put in 100% as long as they possibly can. And then sometimes push just a little bit beyond what they normally would. They want to stretch the envelope of what could be done through self-discipline. And that self-discipline is the difference maker. A lot of people are talented. A lot of people are educated. A lot of people are intelligent. A lot of people have opportunity right in front of them. But not everybody will capitalize on that opportunity by pushing over the hump, by getting past the speed bump. One of the talks that I gave to a high school several years ago, I explained to them, listen, you can go get in your car and crank it up and sit in the parking lot, and it doesn't matter how long you sit there with the engine running and the AC on and the radio on. There's not a speed bump in this parking lot that will chase you down if you're not moving. There's no obstacles coming if you're doing nothing. There will be no resistance in life if you're idle. But the smartest guy, the smartest girl, the smartest human being sitting idle doing nothing makes no waves. They make no change. They make no difference. And ultimately, they make no money. If you're not doing, taking action on the things that you know to do, no new things will be given to you to do. Think about that for a second. If I was your employee and you asked me to do 5 tasks in the course of a week, and the end of the week came and I did none of those tasks, would you find someone else to do those tasks? Probably so. When you had other tasks that needed to be done, maybe which led to a promotion or led to a raise, would you ask me to do them if I had failed the last 5 tasks? Probably not. Would you be looking for a replacement as soon as possible? Probably so. It's about getting things done that you're supposed to get done. As John Maxwell says in Everyday Matters, it's about the routine. It's about making a plan and making a schedule and then sticking to that. Whatever segment of the day you're going to do things in, when you've defined that segment, don't let go of that. And don't allow yourself one time to say, well, I'm going to take a day off from that. I'll find another way to do that later. Because if that's in your routine and you break that habit, it's really hard to gain it back. You lose the traction. Not only that, but you begin to tell yourself in your head, I'm a quitter. Working 8 hours a day is not going to make you uber successful. Working 10, 12, 15 hours a day may or may not at least put you among the high achievers. But if you want to be, as my friend Jim Gardner calls them, elite performers, you're going to have to get up earlier. You're going to have to put in more tread time. You're going to have to do a little more work. You're going to have to stay at it a little longer if you're going to be in that elite performer category. You won't do anything significant in life if you're just normal, if you're just average. And if you're below average, the only mark you may leave on life is a fingerprint. You've got to put in more effort. You've got to put in the hours. There are people out there whose lives, if you just put them side by side with each other, where did they grow up? What kind of education did they have? What school did they graduate from? Where did they go to college? I'll give you a perfect example. There's a young man by the name of Saul David. We've done business together. He's been a coaching client. We've been kind of in the same running circles for the last 3 or 4 years since we met each other. But Saul is a high school graduate. To the best of my knowledge, does not have a college degree. Uh, at one point in his time, had trouble with drugs, had trouble with the law, graduated from a regular, not even a regular, not a normal high school, but a place called Trimble Tech, which is generally a place for some troubled teens. And if you were to go back and match him against the average of his high school graduating class, at the time, he would have been the norm. He's not the norm now. He owns a trucking company with his brother. He runs a couple of businesses on the side. He has launched and handed off a networking group with a unique perspective to it that is now in someone else's hands and still making money. And it's amazing the impact and the influence that he's had. For a young man who graduated from high school as a questionable to make it for the next 5 years, and I believe it was last year, won the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Man of the Year Award before his 40th birthday. That's pretty impressive. You don't do that working 8 hours a week or 8 hours a day or less. It's not possible. You're going to have to put in some more time than that. You're going to have to study harder than that. You're going to have to struggle and strain and put in the late hours more than that if you want to reach that kind of success. It doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come easy. No one is entitled to it. No one gets it handed to them. You want to ask yourself the question, and I've heard it asked several times. What makes them so different that they deserve to have all that money? And usually the they that are being accused of, quote, having all that money are the people who have in their family bloodline seen a lot of wealth. And many people think, well, it's only because the money was handed down that they have any money. That's generally not true. Because what's handed down of greater value than the money is work ethic. It's discipline. It's connected relationships. It's trust. My sons, they're now 20 and 18, when they were 16 and 18, 15 and 17, right in that edge of just barely old enough to be hired in a restaurant. We walked into a restaurant, and again, this is 4 or 5 years ago, walked into the restaurant. As we came around the corner, there was a sign that said, "Help Wanted." And so I just walked up to the manager and I said, do you hire teenagers? And he laughed out loud and he said, "No, I don't hire teenagers because they don't show up for work on time. They don't do the job. They don't do what they're supposed to when they're here. They're always on their phone. They're never paying attention. I generally do not hire teenagers. My business can't afford it." I thought, that's interesting. Okay. So we took a few more steps, and then my two boys came around the corner, and he saw them, and he said, "Wait, are you talking about your teenagers?" I said, "Well, yeah, I was. I mean, they both kind of need to get a job and start paying their own bills." And he said, "Your teenagers I would hire." And I thought, well, that's interesting. I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Well, because I know you from your Leadership Power Lunch thing that you've done, and I know what kind of boys they are. I've seen them carry your equipment in and set it up with no instruction. They know exactly what they're supposed to be doing." They look everybody in the eye. They shake with a firm handshake. They've got the kind of character that I know I could train them to do the job. See, I didn't hand my sons a lot of money. I don't have a whole lot of money to hand them. But what I've given them is work ethic and discipline. And yes, that still takes training. They've been trained up in it all their life, but it's real easy when all your friends want to show up late for work and leave a little early to get caught up in that mode. My oldest son is 20 now, and he has achieved a place where showing up at work, he has actually been given opportunities for raises. He's been given new job assignments. He's been given time for overtime because he does his job with discipline. He shows up on time. He leaves on time. Sometimes he shows up early and he works late. The younger son has changed jobs a few times, but every time he's been hired on the spot based on the interview before they even saw his application, because he presents himself in a way that he honors others and he demonstrates that he's going to do his work. you're not going to be anything more than normal with 8 hours of work. You'll be average because the average person does 8 hours of work a day. If you're doing less than 8 hours of work a day, you're going to be less than average most of your life. But if you find a way and you find the discipline to do the work, not just on the job, on the clock, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 15 hours a day, but when you leave the job, you're working on something else, the next job, the next project, the next educational level, the next career, the next invention, the next app or game. If you can do your 8 hours and then still work for yourself for 8 hours, you will find yourself one day not working for anybody else but you. But you've got to put in the time. You've got to have the discipline. You've got to have the work ethic. And then you've got to be consistent. I got the email Sunday morning that our YouTube channel had finally reached the place where it was able to be monetized. What that means is we've had 10,000 views. And I only started doing these videos in June of 2017. Now, I've uploaded videos from May of 2016 to May of 2017. Then in June, we started doing them live. So we're live streamed on Facebook. We're live streamed on YouTube right now. And reaching that 10,000 views with over 400 videos on my YouTube channel now, over 400 videos on the podcast, didn't happen in a week. I know 10,000 is nothing. Many people have 10,000 views on one video. I understand that. But it's an accomplishment for me. And it's been consistency that's paid off. I am willing to say that if you will be self-disciplined, put in more hours than the average person, and have consistency, that whatever it is that you've set your mind to, whatever you're determined to do, you can pull off. You can't pull it off with less than 8 hours. You can't pull it off by being subpar or below average in your effort, your discipline, your studies. It can't be done. I'm just saying. Look back at all the people who, whether even if they inherited wealth, the ability for their family to maintain that wealth has been based on their discipline, their showing up and doing the work more than the average person, and consistency. And if you think I'm crazy, just go Google search the number of people who won the lottery and they were broke again a year later. Because success is not about money. Money is a fruit of success. Success is about having the discipline, doing the diligent work, and being consistent. If you'll apply those three things in your life, you will find success, and money will follow it. I'm J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.